So does Assassin's Creed Mirage finally go back to the roots of Assassin's Creed and what made people fall in love with the franchise in the first place? And additionally, did it finally break the pattern of just bloating and tedious, unnecessary quests that we've had in the past few games in the recent years? You know what? I'm just going to say it right off the top. It's a resounding yes. But if you want a little bit more details, then stick with me. We're going to go through this review. This is just kind of off the cuff. This is how I like to do my reviews. So they come off as honest, thoughtful, just true, impressions and just my honest experience with the game. Again, I should say right off the top, huge thanks to Ubisoft for providing me with a copy of Assassin's Creed Mirage to check out. Obviously, I'm not getting paid for this. I'm in no way obligated to say anything nice about the game. If I didn't like the game, I would tell you guys I didn't like the game. And if you don't believe me, you can go check out some of my past, comments on various different games in the past that are all up on the channel. You may have to do some digging, but I've been very transparent about what I like and what I don't like in games. For example, Valhalla, I love the world. I loved the idea that it offered. I like the story. I think it was a pretty good story, but I think it was filled with unnecessary quests, bloating, tedious stuff that just really dragged its feet and made me just want to quit. I didn't quit. I stuck through. And I'm glad I did because the ending is pretty epic in Valhalla. And speaking of Valhalla, it introduces a character named Basim, who we're actually going to play as in Assassin's Creed Mirage. Now, Assassin's Creed Mirage actually takes place before Valhalla, so it gives you a little bit of a good backstory on who Basim is and how he ends up being who he is in Valhalla. And I don't want to spoil anything, so I'm not going to say anything beyond that. But if you know what I'm talking about who he is in Valhalla, you can kind of discover how he gets to that point. Okay, if you haven't played Valhalla, either go do so or check out, at least some of the cutscenes, and lore behind Basim to catch you up to speed, because it's pretty crazy how things unfold in Mirage. I'll leave it at that. Now, all right, Mirage is one thing that I will say that, when I seen the trailers, when I seen what it was about, it did seem to go back to the roots, but I was concerned because, again, the past few years, in my opinion, it's been very tedious. We've had the kind of RPG elements and stuff, which just has not been done right. Excuse me, in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, I got locked out of the main story because I just ended up not being a high enough level, and it's like, well, do I really have to go level grind just to continue the story? That really annoyed me greatly, and it kind of, it tarnished what would have been otherwise a great game. Odyssey, Greek mythology, I'm a huge fan of that kind of, atmosphere. And so with Mirage, I'm really glad to say that, in my opinion, it really goes back to the roots. They've done away with the level system. There's no, kind of leveling system. You're not going to get locked out of the story or anything like that. There's also no tedious quests and things like that from start to finish. It's just main story, and it's not stuff like, again, if you played Valhalla, you know what I mean, right? There's kind of those repetitive quests, those things. It's like, okay, it just drags on and on and on. In Mirage, it doesn't waste any time. It just gets you right into the story. Very interesting. Just, how Basim goes from pretty much a nobody into being part of the Hidden Ones, and that whole arc there. And of course, like in, many other Assassin's Creed games, you have the Order, and there's a whole, thing there that you got to unmask and what's going on there. And there's some other stuff that I'm not going to spoil that kind of, will grip you and intrigue you and be like, what's going on with this? What does this mean? What does that mean? You'll see, for example, some cutscenes that start very early on, and they start showing you a little bit more as the game progresses. That really start to pique your interest, and you just really want to know, what is this about? And don't worry, you'll get through the story, and you'll get any answers that you want to have answered eventually. So that's really nice how they just kind of play it through the story. Now, the story only took me about 10 hours or so, depending on obviously how you play. Take you, maybe slightly less, slightly more. And again, that's just main story. If you go in and do a bunch of side quests and stuff like that, you can do some exploration and stuff. There's some hidden caves and hidden kind of treasure to be found and different things like that. Then you can obviously add on to that. I heard people saying that for the platinum trophy on PlayStation, it was taking them maybe 20 to 30 hours roughly, give or take, depending obviously. Now again, there's also three different difficulties. You can play on easy, normal or hard. So if that's also going to factor in as well. In terms of the story, again, we're exploring Basim's kind of, story arc, and it was, in my opinion, very interesting. The characters that surround Basim, again, in my opinion, were pretty interesting. Now, could there have been a little bit more depth to some of the characters? I think yes, but I've seen some other people's reviews say that, they lacked any kind of interesting factor to these characters, and I would disagree with that personally. I think the characters are very interesting. I just would have liked to know a little bit more about them. I would have liked to see them maybe dig a little bit deeper. I think my biggest complaint about the story, about the game in all honesty, is the fact that although I really enjoyed the story and I think it's a great story that is told, I think it could have had a little bit more depth. Now, by depth, it doesn't have to mean that they necessarily make the game another 10 hours longer. That's not what I mean at all. I just mean that I think it could have dug a little bit deeper into some of the like I said, some of the characters surrounding Basim, a little bit more of the story elements, a little bit more of the lore, but it was very satisfying nonetheless. It's just something I would have liked to see a little bit more of. In terms of the kind of location, well, we're in Baghdad, and it's a smaller location than Valhalla, and I like that personally. There's still a lot of stuff to explore, a lot to see. But it just feels like they went for quality over quantity this time, right? Where some of the past games felt the opposite. It felt more of quantity over quality. And I think that's a negative. So I'm really glad that in Mirage's case, it's a positive that they went to focus on quality over quantity, right? They didn't try to make a 30, 40, 50 hour game. They tried to make a really good game. And if that ended up being, 10 to 15 hours, well, hey, I think that's a sweet spot, personally speaking. I'd rather have a really kind of, solid experience, 10 hours, 12 hours. I think that's perfect. And that kind of falls in line with some of the past Assassin's Creed games, right? Assassin's Creed 1 and 2 and 3, and kind of some of the older games were roughly, well, maybe not actually Assassin's Creed 1. That was more like 8 hours. But Assassin's Creed 2, 3, the Ezio collection, probably more in the 12 to 15 hour range, right? So it's kind of in that ballpark. So again, a lot of it goes back to the root system. Now, in terms of everything else, you may be wondering, well, what does the system have to offer? Well, we have a little bit of a variety of different stuff to kind of dig into. Obviously we don't have an RPG element too much in this game, but we do have different weapon sets we can get, and different weapon sets will have different kind of perks. For example, one weapon set I was really fond of, I believe that actually came with the deluxe edition though, was the Prince of Persia set. And that one, for example, it'd be like, well, if you parry successfully and you kill an enemy upon a parry, it'll slow down time for like 2 or 3 seconds, and it'll also restore some of your health, which I thought was, incredible. Again, they all have different perks depending on your play style. You can find different, weapon sets around the world. So that's one thing that you can kind of fiddle with. There's also, obviously, you can go to blacksmiths and you can get some resources around the world, and you can upgrade your weapons to blacksmiths to make them a little bit more powerful. They have a bit more of attack and everything like that. Beyond that, we have our tools, right, like our throwing knives, smoke bombs, etc. You can unlock that as you progress through the game and through the skill tree. And of course, you can also upgrade those as well. There's different perks and stuff you can unlock for them and different things like that. So there is that option as well. And then, of course, like I said, you have your skill tree itself, which, skill trees you're probably used to in various other games. I don't really need to get too deep with that. But for example, it could be something like, well, I don't know, you get an extra bar of focus. And I'll explain what focus is in just a quick second. Maybe you're able to pick up your throwing knives after you've used them, so you don't just completely lose them. Different things like that, right? Or it could be like your eagle has, or your hawk has, better eyesight, or tracking or whatever, things like that. Again, I'm just kind of saying it off the top of my head. One I really liked was actually when an enemy attacks you with a non-parryable, if that's a word, attack, you can actually just dodge towards them, and you roll over them, and then you're basically behind them, right? So for to attack them from the back. So that was a really cool one. That's unlocked a little bit later in skill tree. So different things like that you can kind of fiddle with. Focus. So basically, you have this focus bar, and again, with the skill tree, you can unlock how many bars you have. And depending how many bars you have, I think you start with like 2. You can basically hold down R3 if you're on controller, and you can focus in on some enemies, and you can tag tag multiple enemies in a row. So again, if you have 2 bars, you can only do it up to 2 enemies at a time. And if you, let's say you increase that, you can have 4 or 5 enemies at a time. And basically what happens is you tag a bunch of enemies and then you hit X or A, whatever, you know, button it is on your preferred, you know, peripheral. And you'll go and you'll just basically kind of wipe them all out. But this has to be done while you're in kind of like assassin or stealth mode, right? So you can't have been seen, for example, right? So really cool kind of, you know, little game features like that just really make the combat a lot of fun. Again, you have, like I said, you have your parrying, you have your dodging, your attacking. Just little things like that. It's not super overwhelming, you know, and it's so deep that you're like, again, you're feeling overwhelmed. But the combat, in my opinion, was satisfying. So the combat, again, very classic Assassin's Creed-like. You know, same thing with like all the you know, kind of maneuvering, the platforming, if you will, right? The climbing and all the jumping and all that good stuff. You know, there's a lot of different stuff like that that just feels very classic Assassin's Creed, and I just really enjoyed the game. I think it was really good. Like I said, the story takes you on this really interesting journey with Basim's kind of story, and where it ends up, you're not going to expect whatsoever. And I don't know. Overall, I would say that yeah, the game I would highly recommend. If you're an Assassin's Creed fan, I think you'd be crazy not to play this game. And if you're not an Assassin's Creed fan, if you're not like a big fan of the series, I still think this game is a must play. I think it's a lot of fun, and I just really enjoyed my time. Like I said, I would have liked to see a little bit more depth to the you know, the story and the characters, but it was still satisfying. But for that one reason, it's gonna kind of knock the score off just a little bit for me, and I'm gonna give this game an 8.5 out of 10. So for me, Assassin's Creed Mirage, 8.5 out of 10. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed my time with it. Every time I would finish recording an episode, I would, you know, just be kind of itching to go back and play some more. I'd wake up the next morning and be like, oh man, I want to jump back on Assassin's Creed Mirage. And it just kind of gave me that feel like I used to have with a lot of games way back in the day. And I've really missed kind of feeling that way. So I don't know. Take it as you will. Reviews are subjective. This is just my experience with the game. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. But like I said, I think that again, if you're a fan of the classic kind of formula, it kind of goes back to that. Obviously, they've tweaked some stuff. You know, feels still kind of, you know, 2023, but it doesn't feel like the past few games. So if you're worried about that, don't worry. It's really good, in my opinion. It's solid. So good job to the devs. And again, let me know if you have any questions down in the comments below. Otherwise, if you enjoyed this one, leave a like, subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys soon in another one. Tell them friends. Game on. And thanks for watching. Hey you! What are you doing? Join the Skeleton Army! Do it today! Don't wait till tomorrow, because tomorrow might never come. The Earth is gonna fade, that's inevitable. The next second of your life's not even promised, so you better think about where you're going, and you might as well just join the Skeleton Army. Plus, we do kinda like you a little bit, so it'd be nice to see you around here. But if you don't want to, hey, your loss. See you later!